Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cheech and Kern Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Cheech, alongside my main man, Kern. What's up, Kern?
What's up, Cheech? What's going on?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Ready to talk about Halloween Havoc.
Halloween Havoc 1990 WCW pay-per-view. Now, I mean, fuck, before we get started on that, I mean, shit, it's been a while since we've been talking. Last time we got together was right before WrestleMania 31. And
That's correct.
WrestleMania 31 it's come and gone. It's been over for about, what, 2 weeks now?
Just about, yeah.
So just before we get into that, give me your general thoughts on WrestleMania 31. I mean, everybody's talked about it already, so we're not going to get too into it. But just, you know, your general feelings about WrestleMania, the whole show, what you thought about it.
Okay, actually, I thought that the Sting Triple H match was kind of awesome. Getting to see DX come out at the NWO. Which is a little weird because the NWO was always feuding with Sting at the time, so it was kind of weird to see him come out and defend him. But I thought that was kind of cool. Seeing Ronda Rousey come out was nice also, and I liked the ending of WrestleMania. I love Seth Rollins coming out as the world champion. That shit was just awesome. I liked it.
Yep.
And the Undertaker match I thought was a good match also.
Yeah, I actually liked it. I didn't expect Undertaker to look as good as he did. He came out, he kind of had like that old biker dead man look he had back in 2004 when he came back. He looked good fighting Bray Wyatt. So it was a good match. Sting versus Triple H. Personally, I liked it. I thought it was a little overbooked, but I mean, it was kind of to be expected with thinking about, you know, Sting. He's been inactive for a while, his age. Triple H also.
Actually, Sting wrestled well. I mean, he looked good in the match. He kept up all the way. I thought it was an awesome match.
No, he looked great. Actually, I liked it. I did pop, you know, when DX came out. I did pop when the NWO came out. It doesn't kind of make sense like you mentioned because the NWO, that was the main rivalry Sting had back in the day. So that was kind of weird. I actually thought Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were going to turn. You know, they were part of the clique the night before. They were all hugging on stage in the Hall of Fame. So I kind of felt, I'm like, man, these two, they're going to do a swerve here or something. But
they could have done a swerve, but it's not like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall still wrestle anymore. If they were still in, you know, where they could do some sort of thing, but I don't think that would have happened. But it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was a good match. And of course the Ronda Rousey the Ronda Rousey segment with The Rock was great. You know, it was kind of weird because usually we see Stephanie McMahon. She has this whole authoritative figure, and she's usually talking down to talent. And when I see her talking like that to The Rock and smacking The Rock, it really kind of didn't hit me until I seen him go to the floor and then kind of walk around. Oh shit! Wait a minute, Ronda Rousey's there.
But you had to know because first of all, the Fast and the Furious movie came out. Actually, did you watch that movie?
I have not seen it yet. I'm looking forward to watching it this weekend.
I've seen it.
So don't spoil it.
I won't spoil it for you. I didn't like it, but I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Okay.
But you got to know their movie just came out, so she was there in attendance. They showed her early in the show.
Yeah.
So I knew she was going to be part of something. If The Rock came out, I knew she was going to be part of something.
Well, really, I didn't come make two and two together because she came out last summer at SummerSlam. She was there when Stephanie McMahon fought what was it, Brie Bella? She was there, and it was just kind of like a cameo, and they kind of showed her and the Four Horsewomen, and that was about it. So that's what I thought it was going to be.
No, but I've been reading online before WrestleMania that she was trying to make an appearance or a cameo spot on WrestleMania. So I knew it was going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, and overall, I agree with the finish. I love the way they finished it. They kept Brock Lesnar.
Nobody expected it. That's the beauty.
Nope.
Nobody's seen it come.
They kept Brock Lesnar strong. Roman Reigns, he lost, but he kind of got screwed over, so he's kept strong also. And Seth Rollins was the guy. He's the one that actually deserved to have the title because if you think about it, from last year, who's had the better year? Seth Rollins. He's the one that broke up the Shield. He won Money in the Bank. He's been on top. He's been protected. So, I mean, it makes total sense for them to give him the title.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so moving on then, today's episode, we forgot to mention last episode, which was the show we were going to review on this one, so it's kind of a little apology. And before we go on, I want to make sure, I want to apologize because the last show, my audio, for some reason, you guys can barely hear me. my microphone for some reason wasn't working, and well, we had recorded the show. That was actually the second time we recorded it, because we had recorded it once. The audio came messed up, then we recorded it again, and the audio came messed up again. So it was very frustrating. But for you guys who bear with us there, thank you very much for listening and sticking to us.
And hopefully it's working right now.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it'll be working. So, yep, let's move it on. So today we're going to review WCW Halloween Havoc 1990. Now, this event took place on October 27th, 1990. Of course, it was in the UIC Pavilion in Chicago, Illinois, and it was sold out. 8,000 people were in attendance, and it was funny because I watched this in the WWE Network, and it said "Terror rules the ring." That was kind of the slogan for the pay-per-view event. Do you remember watching the show? Because for me, this was like brand new.
Actually, I remember watching Saturday night's main event the night before Sid Vicious was supposed to fight Sting for the world title.
That's WCW Saturday Night, right?
That's right. And I remember being upset because I was wondering, why the hell is Ric Flair fighting for the tag team championship when he's always fought for the world title? And then they had Sid Vicious fighting for the world title that night. But yeah, I remember watching it a long time ago, but I didn't watch it live.
Okay. Yeah, so they kind of have an intro, and the intro here is it kind of has like this old school Halloween Havoc thing. You know, one of the things I used to love about the old WCW pay-per-views is they always had like these theme shows, and they would always have like these theme entrances and theme sets for the shows. So, and this was no different. Of course, they had like that old Halloween Havoc theme song, and then we're welcome in. Of course, our commentators here, which were much to my surprise, was Jim Ross and Paul E. Dangerously back in 1990.
Paul Heyman.
Yep, he was actually dressed as Dracula, and I don't know who the hell Jim Ross was supposed to be. He kind of looked like a pimp or a detective or something. I wasn't sure what the hell he was supposed to be.
No, hillbilly from Oklahoma.
And then we had Tony Schiavone. He was dressed as the Phantom of the Opera, actually.
Yeah, that's right. I like that mask he had on. It looked good on him.
Yeah, it looked cool. It actually looked really good. So we go straight ahead to the first match here, and the first match actually was Ricky Morton and Wildfire Tommy Rich. Now this is weird because you know Ricky Morton, he has his partner, which is Robert Gibson, right? They're the what was their names? The Midnight Express?
They're the Rock and Roll Express. But actually, before this match, I think Robert Gibson was supposed to fight against the Midnight Express, but I think he got hurt or something previous week before the match, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was, he messed up his knee. He either busted an ACL or something. He had to have reconstruction surgery. Actually, JR talks about this during the match. That's why Ricky Morton had to team up with Tommy Rich, and they go up against one of my favorite tag teams, which is actually the Midnight Express. Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Sweet Stan Lane. Of course, they're accompanied by Jim Cornette. What the fuck? What was that?
That's the Midnight Express, baby.
Now I gotta say, I love their theme song. You know, the Midnight Express theme song. They had that song going on. Jim Cornette, he comes down, dancing, swinging the racket all around.
Do you know that the original Midnight Express had the Honky Tonk Man was on there? Jack Victory. Remember Jack Victory?
I have no idea who Jack Victory is.
Dennis Connery and Randy Rose. You remember?
No.
That's the original Midnight Express. Believe it or not, the Honky Tonk Man was part of the original Midnight Express.
Wow. But did Jim Cornette manage them, or was no?
Yeah. Actually, Jim Cornette came out when they went to Jim Crockett, because the Rock and Roll Express started feuding the Midnight Express. When I remember first watching it, it was Dennis Connery and Randy Rose, and they looked like two weirdos. and the Honky Tonk Man was part of their group. And then when they came to Jim Crockett and the NWA, that's when Jim Cornette came around. That was about 84, 85.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that fact. I always thought as the Rock and Roll Express as just Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson.
Hey, I'll tell you something else you probably didn't know. You know the original Road Warriors had Jake the Snake Roberts was part of the original Road Warriors when they first came out?
Are you fucking with me?
serious, man. I'm dead serious. The original Road Warriors were Hawk, Animal, King Kong Bundy, and Jake the Snake Roberts.
Okay.
I swear to God, man. It sounds stupid now when you listen to it, but yeah, actually, that's as honest to God truth.
Okay. So the referee for this match is one of our favorite referees, which was Nick Patrick.
Nick Patrick.
Yep.
Mr. NWO.
Yep. So the match starts off. Robert Gibson. He kind of talks. Jim Ross mentions that Robert Gibson, he had messed up his knee. He had reconstruction surgery, and they actually claimed that it was the Fabulous Freebirds that messed up his knee and caused him to be out of action.
I think they were both fighting for like a #1 contendership for like the U.S. Tag Team titles or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And one thing that was kind of funny is that I noticed that Jim Ross at the beginning of the show was basically immediately annoyed by Paul Heyman's comments. He was kind of pissed off because Paul Heyman would just throw like any type of comment out of nowhere, and you can see Jim Ross just kind of like ignore him, like, okay, I'm not gonna I'm not even gonna answer that.
Yeah. Actually, Paul Heyman is actually good on the mic. He's one of my favorite guys talking.
No, he was great. But you could tell, back in the day, Jim Ross was kind of like that serious broadcaster. He wouldn't go for that. It's not like what it became later with Jerry the King Lawler and WWF, where they would kind of like go back and forth. Jim Ross was kind of being as straight as possible, and Paul Heyman was just trying to get something out of him, but he just couldn't.
And actually, that was a good match. Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich. I never liked Tommy Rich. What do you think of Tommy Rich?
Well, I never even know who Tommy Rich. This is the first time I saw Wildfire Tommy Rich. I was like, okay, I don't remember him.
Oh, man. He was a former world champion. He was the NWA champion back in the day. He used to feud with Dusty Rhodes and Handsome Harley Race.
Huh?
How do you not know who Tommy Rich was?
Wildfire Tommy Rich. Have no recollection of him whatsoever. But it was a decent match. I must say that Beautiful Bobby Eaton was awesome. The guy, he wasn't the most athletic. He was, maybe I said this before in the past podcast, but he wasn't the most athletic. But I mean, he was great. For his size and everything, he was great. Now, one thing I must say, during the match, there was this spot where he kind of he went to dive off the top of the rope. I don't know if you remember this spot. He was in the top of the rope and he went to dive to the outside. And he jumped, and he almost completely missed Ricky Morton on the outside. So he wasn't the most, he didn't have the most leaping ability, but he was an awesome wrestler.
Yeah, actually, the Midnight Express in this match against Rock and Roll Express, well, Tommy Rich and Ricky Morton, and Ricky Morton.
Yeah.
Actually, the Midnight Express has some really good tag team combinations between them. I mean, they were tagging in and out. They were making a lot of tag team moves together. It was actually a very interesting match.
Yep. Part of my notes here actually have that they were able to maintain most of the control throughout the match. And Jim Cornette, he was able to distract the referee. That allowed them to do double teaming. Classic Midnight Express match. The finish actually comes with it comes when Jim Cornette, he nails Tommy Rich with his tennis racket as the ref is distracted, and down the aisle come the Southern Boys. Who the hell were the Southern Boys? Do you remember who these guys were?
Yeah, actually, the Southern Boys were trying to become. They were making feuds with the Midnight Express and the Rock and Roll Express. They were fighting They were a bad tag team. I think they won the U.S. Tag Team titles a couple times. But they were trying to be something that they weren't. They looked like a bunch of racist fucks. They come out with the Confederate flags and shit.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, back then you could do that. You can't do that shit now.
Yeah. So they came down and they attacked Jimmy Cornette, and then that allowed Tommy Rich to nail Sweet Stan Lane with the tennis racket and get the pin at 20 minutes and 49 seconds. I thought it was a good opening match for the pay-per-view. Yeah,
it was a great opening match.
Then after that, we go straight ahead up to the I guess to an interview area they had set up in the back, where Tony Schiavone interviews Sting. And when you think about Sting back in the early '90s, his promos weren't the best, in my opinion. I didn't think he was a good promo. And this promo he did on Sid Vicious really proved my theory. It wasn't the best promo out there. And then all of a sudden, when he's talking, we kind of hear the Black Scorpion in the background. And he shows up kind of like in their little mini stage they had back there. He pulls some production assistant. He takes her on, kind of does like this disappearing magic with her. And Sting is looking at this like a dumbass. Kind of just like, wait a minute. Oh, my God, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. He goes over there. He runs back. It was so cheesy and so over the top that I'm like, man, this could only happen in a WCW show.
Actually, yeah, but it was back then. They didn't. I don't know. They didn't have really good ways of disguising shit like they do now. So it was very cheesy.
Yep. So I must say something before we continue. I watched this Halloween Havoc on the WWE Network, as mentioned before. But it seems like they cut matches out of the pay-per-view. So we're gonna go over what the matches are on the network, because it's what I watched. But I know there were other matches on the pay-per-view that just didn't make the network cut. So we're gonna go ahead over there.
You know what? They probably didn't make the network cut because the guys who were wrestling, besides Junkyard Dog, everybody else, who the hell were these people?
I kind of searched it. I was like, wait a minute, I know they had to be more matches on this paper because it was only a 2-hour match, 2-hour show. And when I went over it, I seen there were a couple matches that were cut off. There was Terry Taylor versus Bill Orban. I have no idea who Bill Orban was. Terry Taylor, I know who it is. Brad Armstrong fought J.W. Storm. I have no idea who that guy is either.
I have no clue who that guy was.
The Masters Blasters, Blade and Steel. They defeated the Southern Boys.
Who the Masters Blasters are, right?
No, I've heard of them, but I don't.
Kevin Nash was Blade, or was he Blaster?
No,
Kevin
Blade
Nash
and Steel. Blade and Steel.
Yeah, I think he was Steel.
Okay. And they fought the Southern Boys, the ones we were actually mentioning right now, Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong. And then they had the Junkyard Dog versus Moondog Rex. Yeah, so those were the matches they kind of skipped over there in the WCW, the network version. But anyways, the second match they come up is actually the Renegade Warriors, Chris and Mark Youngblood. They fought the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, who was with Little Richard. Who's Little Richard?
That's it. No, that's their roadie.
Yeah, it was like Little Richard Marley was his name.
No, his name is oh man, Jesus, what is his name? Man, I can't think of his name right now. He was really good. He was in the NWA. Remember those shows where they televised like on a stage? Uh-huh. Then they had like 10 people sitting in the back watching the show.
I would love those shows. That's where Ric Flair did a lot of his great promos in that.
Rocky Johnson was his name, right? Rocky Johnson?
No, that's The Rock's dad.
No, The Rock's dad's name is Peter. Wait a minute.
No, come on, dude. The Rock's dad's name is Rocky Johnson. His grandfather is High Chief Peter Maivia.
Hold on. Well, just keep talking. It'll pop up in my head. Give me a second.
But I have here, his name was Little Richard Marley. That's what they called him.
No. Well, maybe that was his name there. Hold on.
Okay. We're live. We're live to podcast, so this just bear with us here.
Go ahead, keep going. I'm here.
Okay, all right, he's there. So, anyways, they fight the Fabulous Freebirds. Now they come down back to the Bad Street USA. Their whole theme song going on there, and I must say, I am not
Rocky King. Rocky King is his name.
Rocky King.
Rocky King, King.
Okay. I could have swear Jim Ross called him Little Richard.
He probably is. You got the CD for the
Yep.
Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen?
Yep, I got it.
Yep. That first match they got where it's Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and Ric Flair. They fight Pez Whatley, the Italian Stallion, and Rocky King. You'll see the guy there.
Okay. What year was that match in? You know?
86.
Okay, so he changed his gimmick then to Little Richard.
Well, that must have been just for this, because I've always known him as Rocky Johnson.
Okay, Rocky King, not Rocky Johnson, Rocky King.
Rocky King, right? He actually was the roadie. They called him the roadie for the Fabulous Freebirds.
Oh, okay. Now I'm gonna say the Fabulous Freebirds. They were a good tag team, but I don't know. They just really didn't do much for me. besides their theme song. I like their theme song. Other than that, it didn't do much for me. Because, I always thought they were kind of like weird. Michael Hayes would come down singing, like moving his hands, kind of like that gayish move he would do. And I don't know, this really didn't inspire me that much.
That's the strut, man. That's the bad street strut.
I don't know. That strut doesn't look too bad straight to me. But anyways, it was a basic tag team match. It was a pretty good all around. The Freebirds, they kept taking the advantage as the ref was distracted. The crowd, they seemed pretty much quiet throughout the whole match. It's like it started and then it went dead. Like the crowd really didn't care about it. And what did you think about this match?
Well, I like the Fabulous Freebirds. I'm a big fan of theirs, and I think they should have been in the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame. They should put the Fabulous Freebirds in. I actually liked the match. It was all right. Chris Youngblood and Mark Youngblood, they never made it anywhere. I mean, their heritage, because they're Youngbloods, but they were still green back then. But the Freebirds, I like the Freebirds. They were good.
All right. So the way they were selling this was throughout the whole match. Jim Ross was talking about the DDT that Michael Hayes hit on. Who was it? He would hit on somebody. And,
Chris Young.
Yeah, no, he hit it on Chris Young for the pinfall. But I'm saying he had done it before. I guess it was with the Rock and Roll Express. They had a feud going on, and he was hitting the DDT, and that's what allowed them to hurt. What was his name? The one that was injured, the one we mentioned. Ricky Morton? No, Robert Gibson.
Gibson.
Yeah, so throughout the match, they were kind of selling the big deal of the DDT. All of a sudden, he hits it on Chris Youngblood behind the ref's back, and they get the pin at 17 minutes, 49 seconds.
That was a good match.
Yep.
You notice how those matches back then usually last like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Stuff. And matches nowadays are like 3 minutes and you're out.
Yep. Solid match. It was a solid match. Okay, so then after that, we go back to Tony Schiavone, where he interviews Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Sid Vicious. Now, they were the four horsemen. Who was the fourth horseman in this incarnation?
Barry Windham, but he was hiding because he was painting his face to look like Sting.
Exactly. That would come into play later on in the match and in the show.
Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Barry Windham, and Sid Vicious.
This is, I wanted to make sure it was Barry Windham because I was going to say this is probably, besides when it was Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Ole, and Arn, this is probably my second favorite incarnation of the Four Horsemen. Oh,
man, I got a lot more before this one. My favorite one was when it was Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and Ric Flair. That was my favorite. That's actually when I became a fan of the Horsemen. But when after Lex Luger left and Barry Windham came, I thought they were the best ever right there. With Barry Windham, Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, and Tully... Not Lex Luger. With Barry Windham, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard. That's my favorite.
Tully Blanchard was great. Actually, thinking about it, it was great. I say it because I like Barry Windham. I'm not, Sid Vicious is a great wrestler, but he was so huge. At least I'm going back to my memories of watching him as a kid, and I thought this was the most dreadful horseman ever. They were just like, ooh, you could see them, and they were like, oh man, these guys gotta kick some ass.
Yeah, no, I think they just put him in there because they didn't have a spot for him at the time. Because I never liked Sid Vicious. Did you ever see that match on in WCW, like when it was ready to fold down that pay-per-view, Greed?
Yep, that's when he broke his leg. Horrible accident. Yep.
It's funny. I remember watching that live.
Okay, you watched it?
Because if you watch it on the network now, they don't show the part where he jumps and breaks his leg.
But did they actually show it live? Because they were actually debating that they never showed it live. They actually showed it the next night out, not on Nitro.
No, I watched it live that night on Greed. I remember watching. I remember when he broke his leg because I almost threw up when I
It's horrible. I can't see that shit. It's horrible.
And then the bad thing about it was as he's holding his leg and you see half his ankle just flopping around, Scott Steiner's still kicking him in the face.
Yep. And that was the pay-per-view. If I recall correctly, that was the pay-per-view that they were hyping up somebody and like, oh, he's gonna make the hugest night in history, like Tony Schiavone.
Yeah, Ric Flair had a mystery guest that he was bringing in. It ended up being fucking who was it?
Animal. Animal. And oh my God, it's Animal. He's here. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me.
Right.
Sorry, excuse me for that. Yep. So the next match was the United States Tag Team title match, which was the Nasty Boys, Jerry Sags, and Brian Knobbs versus the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott Steiner. All I can say about this match was it was brutal, it was hard, it was stiff, and I think it was the type of match you really could expect from the Steiners and the Nasty Boys.
Yeah, you know, the Nasty Boys, I like the Nasty Boys. They were actually a really good tag team, and against the Steiner brothers, which also another good tag team. They actually turned out to be a great match for the United States Tag Team titles.
Mm-hmm. You know, looking back now, you know, I watch these matches, these old school matches like this, and I remember Scott Hall when he was the big bad booty daddy in WCW, and you know he had the yellow goatee with the little black spot, and he had
Steiner.
Yeah, Scott Steiner. Did I say Rick? I'm sorry. Yeah,
you said Scott Hall. You said Scott Hall.
I said Scott Hall. Oh wow, okay, yeah, no, I meant Scott Steiner. Yeah, that didn't make sense. Scott Hall, the big dad, big bad booty dad. But anyways, he would wear kind of like those shorts with the Superman S on it. You know, that's the big Papa Pump that I was a fan of. You know, and I remember seeing him, and I was like, man, he's so jacked. But then I see him now. You know, in 1990, I'm like, wait a minute, he was as big as he was back then. So it's like he's always been that big. I don't remember him being so big until I start seeing him now, and he's always been so huge.
Well, now, when he changed his colors, he went to the short trunks wrestling. Yeah. Before, he used to fight with the whole spandex thing that used to cover his upper body, so you couldn't tell. But, yeah, he's always had that.
Yeah, but, I mean, his arms, because, you know, he had those freakish arms, but he would kind of, like, you know, do, like, the little pose on the, and then you have, like, a small-ass little mountain, like the Popeye cartoons. Yeah. And, I was like, man, how did he get so freakishly big? But I mean, back in 1990, he was just huge, also. So that was that kind of stood out as I watched this match.
Here, I'll give you a trivia on Scott Steiner. You know, Scott Steiner was a science teacher in high school before he became a wrestler.
Wow, did not know that at all.
Science teacher in high school before he became a wrestler.
Yeah, so this match, it started off very hot. You know, they were just kicking their ass off everywhere, up inside the ring, outside the ring. The match, the ref looked like he lost control throughout the match. I thought they were going to call for like a DQ, but it wasn't like that. And then kind of like midway, I guess both teams kind of gassed out, and the action kind of just like, they went to a lot of rest holds. They, you know...
well, I think it was more. I think it was more the Nasty Boys. You know, they're all fat and out of shape. I
mean, but you could tell like at least one of those teams I know was gassed out because the action like completely stopped, and it kind of killed the mood of the match actually, because the match started very hot. Yeah. So then the match actually, what was the finish? I didn't write down on my notes for some reason what the finish was. Who won?
Actually, the Steiner brothers won that match.
Was it? No, actually, no. Was it?
Yeah, the Steiner brother. He did a Frankensteiner to Knobs.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And then he won the match. The little
they won the match, and then they did an interview, right? Because they kind of beat up Rick Steiner, and then Scott Steiner kind of did an interview, and then the Nasty Boys attacked them again with the concessions.
He came out as a concession stand guy.
Yeah, and they beat
well, you
him
knew
up
that
again.
guy was fucked up because he came out with that nasty, fucked up wig. You could tell it was a wig. And then why is the concession stand standing behind the interview guy?
On the stage, exactly. So I'm like, you know, when I seen it, I was like, oh man, you deserve to get your ass kicked. So yeah, that was that part with the Steiners and the Nasty Boys. Then after that, we go to another, at least in the network version, we go to another tag team title match, which is the World Tag Team title match, and this was between Arn Anderson, Ric Flair. Actually, Arn Anderson was the World TV champ at the time, but he didn't come out with the belt.
No, he didn't come out with the belt, but yeah, he was a TV. Well, wasn't this supposed to be a street? No, the street fight wasn't Starcade. My bad. Yeah,
no, it was a straight up match, and they actually fought Doom, the team that I remember. Remember Ron Simmons and Butch Reed.
Butch Reed, yeah, we talked in the last podcast. You didn't even know who they were.
Yeah, I mean, they were one of my favorite tag teams, I remember, but I just didn't remember them called Doom.
Well, they came out with masks at first.
The interesting part here, they were managed by Teddy Long, as you mentioned before, but man, Teddy Long was so huge in this pay-per-view. I seen him and I'm like, man, his face was all swollen up. it looked like he was hitting the gym very hard. Because I remember, as I mentioned before, I remember Teddy Long as player, you know, the SmackDown GM. And that's like the vision I have of Teddy Long. And now going back watching this and seeing how jacked he was and how swollen he was, I was like, damn, Teddy Long was a bad motherfucker back in the day.
Yeah, actually, Teddy Long, I think he was a wrestler for one point.
He was?
And then, yeah, he was a wrestler at one point. Didn't really work out. Then he became a referee. Because when I remember the first time I remember seeing Teddy Long was as a referee in the NWA back in the 80s.
I remember the first time I seen him being a ref was in Chi-Town Rumble, which was Ric Flair versus Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat, and he came in to count the last final three. Yeah, I remember that. That was actually in Chicago, too. That was at the UIC Pavilion.
Yeah, and it was funny because he did I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was a documentary. I'm not sure if it was the Ric Flair documentary or which was it. It was funny because they interviewed Teddy Long, and he's like, oh, my best match as a wrestler was when I got to referee Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat in '89 and Chi-Town Rumble. And I'm like, wait a minute, you weren't even in the match. All you did was count the final three, because he ran in. It was actually Tommy Youngblood was the referee for that match.
Tommy Young, not Youngblood. Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Young. Why the hell did I say Youngblood?
Tommy Young was the referee for that match. Actually, I remember seeing that same interview you were just talking about with Teddy Long. I remember him saying it, and I remember saying the same thing. I'm like, wait a minute, weren't you there for like the last 3 seconds?
Yeah, the last 3 seconds. So anyways, it was a good match. Doom, I guess they're not the best technical wrestling team ever, you know. So and when you're coming, you know, you're going in the ring against Arn Anderson and Ric Flair, you need to know your shit. So I guess Ric Flair and Arn Anderson were the ones that really carried this match. I should say, I guess Ron Simmons. Well, he was very young. It was very young in his career, right? He was just starting off. It wasn't. He wasn't in the wrestling business for that long before that.
No, he was playing football, I believe, when he came in to the NWA. He was playing football somewhere.
Yeah, because most of the match, it was actually the Horsemen that were carrying it. They were doing most of the action. There were a lot of rest spots for Doom. And then Doom just came in and had kind of all the high spots. Then they went to the outside, started fighting, and got DQ'd.
Yeah, it was an okay match. I mean, it lasted for a while, and it was a good match. The Horsemen did carry most of it, and Doom was the tag team champions, which was weird. But actually, it was more leading off towards Starrcade, the next pay-per-view. I think is why they ended it the way it did, as a double countout.
Yep, kind of a way to keep both teams strong going into the next event. But one thing I must say before we move on was I love the way the crowd, Jim Ross and Paulie Dangerously popped huge when Arn Anderson hit the DDT. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
He did kind of a DDT and everybody was like, oh my God. And the fans, they all like stood up like, holy shit. It was an awesome spot.
It was actually, I love Arn Anderson. He's one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yep. No doubt. Arn Anderson, one of the best of all time. Now, after that, we go straight to Lex Luger versus Stan the Lariat Hansen. And this was for the U.S. Heavyweight title. The NWA U.S. Heavyweight champ. And it was actually Lex Luger who was the champ. Now, I must say, when kind of they did like a cutscene interview with Stan the Lariat Hansen during the ring entrance. And I was like, where the hell have I seen this guy before? I've seen him before. He's a famous wrestler. But I was thinking about in a movie. I've seen it in a movie. I'm like, I've seen this guy, and I've seen him recently. And I'm trying to think. And then I finally gave up. I'm like, I got to see what movie was it on. And he was actually, he was in the movie No Holds Barred. And the reason I knew that is because No Holds Barred was on Netflix recently. And I watched the whole movie. And he was in the movie, and I was figuring, I was like, man, I've seen this guy somewhere, and it was there. It was No Holds Barred.
Actually, if I'm mistaken, Stan the Lariat Hansen, didn't he have some good wars with Carlos Colon when we were kids in Puerto Rico?
He's had wars with everybody. He's a great, he was famous in Japan. He had great years in Japan. I think he did a short stint in WWF. He was in WCW. He came to Puerto Rico. He had great matches here with Carlos Colon, with this other guy also, Invader. I think they fought also. They had great matches. Yeah, he's a great talent.
I see. He's still alive, believe it or not.
Yeah. So the interesting part about this match was during one point, it was kind of an okay match back and forth between Luger and Hansen, and at one point, Dangerous Danny Spivey, he comes over to ringside and he hands Hansen the cowbell. Stan Hansen would come down with the cowbell. He hands him the cowbell, and it's funny because Stan Hansen doesn't even hit Lex Luger with the cowbell. And
the lariat.
Yeah, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having him come down and give him the cowbell. And all of a sudden, he just hits him with the lariat, and he pins him clean in the ring. 1, 2, 3. He beats Lex Luger.
I think that was a mistake. I think he was supposed to hit him with the cowbell, but for some reason it just didn't work out fine, and then it just ended with the match.
Yeah,
right
he
there.
was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna hit him with my clothesline, and he pinned him 1, 2, 3. And I remember watching it recently. I was like, wow. They just pinned Lex Luger like that. I mean, Lex Luger was kind of protected in WCW.
Yeah, he had that U.S. title for a while. I mean, for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When I think U.S. title, the first name that comes to my mind always is Lex Luger.
Yeah, same thing with me.
And I seen him get pinned there, and I was like, wow, he just got pinned like that. And then it was so weird because they didn't even use the cowbell. So it was just, he got pinned clean. So it was weird for me.
Yeah, it was. It was weird for that time.
So after that, we go to the main event. Actually, they did an interview with Theodore Long, where this is where I mentioned that I seen him being so huge. And then after that, we go straight to the World Heavyweight title match. It was the World Heavyweight title. It was Sid Vicious, part of the Four Horsemen, going up against Sting.
Now, didn't you think it was weird for Sid Vicious, of anybody of the Horsemen, to be Sid Vicious to go up against Sting for the world title?
I guess Sting, they were kind of building him up as this whole, they always try to bring like big challenges for him. They brought Big Van Vader, they brought Cactus Jack, they brought Sid Vicious. They brought all these huge guys to kind of fight him. He was always fighting bigger guys.
Yeah, you're right. And this was against Sid Vicious for the NWA Heavyweight Championship.
Mm-hmm. Now, it was I must say it was a weird finish to the match, because they had a good, decent, I don't know, I would say 10, 15-minute match. And then all of a sudden, the action spills to the outside for some odd reason. And Ric Flair and Arn Anderson coming walking down the aisle. Not like the regular entrance aisle. They had like a separate aisle on the back. And they just walked out. And then the ref's just there like, no, what the heck are you guys doing here? Kind of trying to control them. And Sting and Sid Vicious are fighting their way into the crowd, kind of to the locker room area. And then all of a sudden, Sid Vicious come back, and you see Sting. Now, clearly, I know this wasn't Sting. They kind of try to protect it, like kind of try to shoot him from behind. But you knew because Sting was fit. And then all of a sudden, you kind of seen like a little bit of blubber on the sides when the guy came in.
Plus, you got to remember, Sting is like 6'1" or 6'2", and Barry Windham's like 4 inches or 5 inches taller. Sting fucking got stretched out for the last.
And it was funny, and of course, and Sting's, as Sting wrestles, his face mask, his face paint usually goes like,
starts to wear off.
Yeah, it gets off, and then the guy comes in with fresh paint. So I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? He went over and he painted his face. So he goes for, what was it, a body slam or something? And he kind of fell backward, and Sid Vicious just pinned him.
Yep, and then he ended up winning the championship right there. Well, supposedly ended up winning the championship right there.
Now, it was, the referee was Nick Patrick. Am I right?
Yes, you were.
This fucking guy, man. He was always involved in these fuck finishes. So he comes and he pins the 3 count. He hands, the bell rings. Now, this was where the weirdness comes. The bell rings. They hand Sid Vicious the belt. Gary Capella says he's the new NWA or WCW, whatever it was, World Heavyweight Champ. Sting gets back in the ring. He does a schoolboy, pins him, and he's back in the champion. I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? The match ended.
Right. In wrestling, when the match is over, it's over. There's no restart. Right.
It's over. So I was like, oh my God. Even in 1990, WCW was doing these weird finishes. That's the only problem I ever had with WCW back in the day. These fuck finishes in the pay-per-views. And
then they had plenty of them.
Yep. But other than that, I guess it was, I didn't get to see the other matches, but I would say it was a solid 5 out of 10, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I give it a 5.
5 out of 10. All right, that was So that was, there you go. That was WCW Halloween Havoc. We're keeping it short. We're trying to keep the show under an hour. We're not going to go so long as before. So, yep, WCW 1990 was an event, 5 out of 10. And before we go, Kern, we're going to talk about emails. We got some emails here from our fans.
All right. So why don't you read out the email we got? How many emails have we got today?
We got hold on, let me check. I gotta check the email real quick. Let me read the first one while this opens up, because this is the one I actually wrote down on my notes. The first email comes from our main man over there, Tony Culopesta. We gotta give him a shout out again for Tony over there in Spanish Harlem, New York. And he asks us the top 10 heels of all time. Your top 10 heels and my top 10 heels. So I'll let you go
right. First. Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to start from number 10, and I'm going to go all the way up to number 1.
Okay.
Number 10 for me will be Sergeant Slaughter. And I'm going to say Sergeant Slaughter during the 1991, when America was at war with Iraq and he became the heel.
Okay.
Number 9 will be Brian Pillman. And my Brian Pillman goes two ways, because he was the crazy psychotic Brian Pillman when he was in WCW.
Okay.
Then he went to ECW and came like more fucked up in the head, psychotic. Then he went to the WWE and had a great first couple of matches with Stunning Steve Austin when that feud, which made him one of my top 10. My number 8 is going to be...
shame. It was a shame. Before you go to number 8, it was a shame his career got cut short. You know, he had that accident with the his ankle accident. And then, you know, obviously we all know that he went down with, you know, he passed away early in his life. And it's a shame, because I really would have wanted to know what would happen if Brian Pillman was around in that Attitude Era while Stone Cold was white hot, you know. And I can imagine Stone Cold, the white hot babyface, going up a badass heel Brian Pillman for that title. I mean, it's just something that would have been great to watch, but unfortunately it was cut short.
Yeah, it was a lot of people that got cut short in the wrestling business. All right, my number 8 would be Bret the Hitman Hart when they were Canada versus the U.S. Mm-hmm. And number 7 would be Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant, really?
WrestleMania 3, that big turn. That was a big heel turn there.
Yeah, actually, he was the ultimate heel at that time, yep.
Number 6 is Tully Blanchard. Now, most people don't consider Tully Blanchard to be a great heel, but if you go back to watch Tully Blanchard between 84, 85, 86, 87, he was one of the most hated wrestlers you will ever see. Great. He had great matches with, what the hell is this guy's name? The guy who had the motorcycle accident. Magnum TA. He had great matches with Magnum TA. Starrcade, the first blood match was an awesome match. My number 5 would be Roddy Piper in the beginning of the Hulkamania season era. 4 would be Randy Savage, King Randy Savage. My top 3 were kind of iffy, but I'm going to go with my top 3 would be Vince McMahon, my number 3, during the Attitude Era with that whole Stone Cold Steve Austin thing. My number 2 would be Hollywood Hulk Hogan, which was my favorite heel in WCW in the 90s after the NWO. And my number 1 would be Nature Boy Ric Flair. He is my top heel ever. I mean, the guy just had the whole total package for when it came to becoming a heel.
Good. That was a good list. That was a good list, actually. And I'm going to go to my list. Before I go into my list, I'm going to say it's very hard to pick 10 heels, and sometimes it's even harder to be able to decide between all of them. And the way I did my list, they're not all wrestlers. And before I go into the top 10, I got to do some honorable mentions here. And of course, I'm going to go with Paul Heyman. You know, he's been doing some phenomenal work. I think he's been a great heel throughout his whole career since the Dangerous Alliance. ECW, he wasn't really a character in ECW. But I mean, what he's doing now with Brock Lesnar, he's great, because sometimes, another honorable mention is actually CM Punk, because sometimes their talent is so awesome that they're supposed to be a heel, they're despicable, but you love to watch them, you know, because they're so good. So Paul Heyman falls in that category for me right there. And the other honorable mention I wanted to make was Jake the Snake Roberts. I thought that Jake the Snake Roberts, when he went heel on Macho Man, and he had Damien bite Macho Man when Macho Man's arms were caught up in Saturday night's main event. That was an awesome angle, and he deserves an honorable mention here in my top 10. But
just to interrupt you there, just a quick Jake the Snake Roberts. You remember Jake the Snake Roberts, the feud he had with Ricky Steamboat before he had that Macho Man one? That one was a really good angle also. He came out with as the first heel angle against Ricky Steamboat and turned out to be a great feud.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great performer. I loved him all the way around. So number 10, we got actually a lot of the guys that you mentioned are going to be on my list. And number 10, I would have to go with Bret Hart, the 1997 version. I thought his performance as kind of like the crybaby heel made sense. You know, he kind of got screwed over at WrestleMania, or so to speak, and the people really weren't cheering him, so he was kind of like crybaby. I thought that was a great gimmick he had in 1997.
When he went to Canada, he was fucking...
Yeah, he was over. He was God over there, you know. That was his territory.
It was awesome.
Number 9, I would go with Big Van Vader. You know, he was a great heel. He was stiff. He was hard. He was a monster. It didn't matter if you put him against Sting, if you put him against Shawn Michaels in SummerSlam '96. You know, he was a great heel. So he makes my top 10. Number 8, I would have to go with the Macho King, Randy Savage. You know, I always thought that Macho Man played better off as a heel. He was a great babyface, but he played it better off as a heel, especially when he was with Sherry, and he had that whole Macho King gimmick. Great performer all around. So number 8, Macho King Randy Savage. Number 7 was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. His gimmick, being that rich bastard, you know, that would just kind of flaunt his money around. He would say, "Oh, I'll give you $100 if you could bounce this basketball 10 times." And when the kid was at number 9, he would kick the ball away. You know, he was the ultimate heel. Just awesome. He wanted to buy his way to the championship. I mean, what better heel than that? You know.
You know what I used to like about $1 Man was when he used to abuse Virgil.
Yeah, he would abuse Virgil, and you just wanted. You know, it worked so well because you just wanted to see Virgil kick his ass. You know, and when he finally did it, people went nuts. So yeah, he was a great heel. Number 6, this guy, you might think about it like, wow, he's in your top 10, but I believe he's one of the best heels I've ever seen in professional wrestling, and that's Edge from Edge and Christian. Actually, Adam Copeland. He's my number 6.
When you told me your list earlier today, Edge.
Yeah, Edge. Now the thing is, like, for example, I might understand why you're laughing at it, because you probably you're not too familiar with Edge's work from 2006 to like up till he retired. Edge was one of the baddest heels that have been in professional wrestling. He was such a heel that if I would see Edge on the street, I would want to kick his ass. That's how much of a good heel he was. And now I'm a huge fan. I appreciate what he did and his talent and everything. But when he was a heel, he was you just wanted to hate him. And he actually speaks about this. He says that was his goal. He wanted to make people hate him so bad. He was just a dick, and it worked. That's why he makes my top 10.
I'm gonna have to start looking some of those matches up.
Yeah, Edge. I highly recommend it. Number 5. Now, this is probably gonna be a little controversial here, but my number 5 heel is Ric Flair. And you'd be like, wow, well, number 5, why is he higher up on your list?
You better have a really good top 4 then.
Ric Flair, I mean, we go back to what I was saying earlier with Paul Heyman and Jake the Snake Roberts and CM Punk. It's that he's such a good performer that at some point he's a heel, he's despicable, but you enjoy watching him. To me, a heel has to be that guy that you, as I mentioned, like Edge, you really gotta hate him. And Ric Flair was just so good. His slick Rick, his woo, everything. He was just so awesome that he was a heel, but you enjoy. He was kind of like a cool heel. He was like the first cool heel. Except when he got in the ring, he was that chicken shit that kind of backed down, but then will kick your ass and back it up. Right. It's just so many different elements. He's my number 5. Number 4, I would go with. He's not a wrestler. He's actually a manager, and that's Bobby the Brain Heenan. This man. He was such a great heel, a great talker, a great all-around performer that you just wanted to see him get his ass kicked, and it didn't matter who he managed. You were going against the guy just because he was managed by Bobby Heenan. My number 3 is actually one of your heels is Hollywood Hulk Hogan. You know, Hulk Hogan, he was the biggest baby face in the 80s, the biggest face in professional wrestling. You know, he took the business to another level. And then once he started to get stale, the people started turning, boom, Hollywood Hulk Hogan's at your ass. You know, and he was just great. He was he changed the industry, and I think he deserves to be in the top 3.
You know, that's what's happening to John Cena right now.
John Cena should have turned heel a good 2 years ago. I say John Cena's time to turn heel was when he was fighting The Rock. The Rock kicked his ass. That was his time. Like, oh, you guys wanted to see me get my ass kicked. I got my ass kicked. Now I'm a heel, you know. And,
I think they're going to wait till, like, he gets a little older to turn him heel. Yeah, because he's still a guy that can bring him a lot of money in. Once he gets old and people are, like, really sick and tired of watching him, then he'll probably end up turning heel.
I feel like they're kind of trying to phase him out. You know, he's down to the U.S. level. He's been out of the title picture since Brock Lesnar, and I see him they're trying to phase him out little by little.
Yeah, I don't know, but I still think he can still draw money.
Oh no doubt. I mean, he's the biggest draw they have right now. My number 2, I don't know if I don't think it made your list. My number 2 is Triple H. You know, Triple H, he was a great face, but he's always been the better heel. And ever since he came in as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, that snazzy blue blood, he was a great heel. He went up in DX, then he turned heel again when Shawn Michaels retired. All that throughout 2000, 2001 to almost to about 2005, he was a great heel, dominated the business. He turned face for a little bit, then he turned back heel. This whole angle with the Authority, Daniel Bryan, everything, you know, he's just a great heel. You know, he's great. Even he's getting to that point where you enjoy watching him, but he's a great heel. And of course, my number 1 villain of all time, or my number 1 heel of all time, has to be Vince McMahon, hands down. Mr. McMahon, that Mr. McMahon character, you know, Stone Cold needed that villain to fight. You know, it's like John Wayne in his movies always needed a good bad guy. You know, James Bond always needs a good bad guy. Stone Cold needed Mr. McMahon as much as Mr. McMahon needed Stone Cold. And without that Mr. McMahon character, I don't think the WWF reaches the heights that it reached in the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's not a bad pick. I still can't believe Flair's number 5, but
but I mean, think about it. My top 4. I mean, you got Bobby Heenan, Hollywood Hogan, Triple H, and Mr. McMahon. I mean, he was a good top 4. So I mean, I think it's justifiable.
Yeah, it's justifiable. I don't really. I mean, I like Triple H. I think he's with the Authority. He's bad. I didn't really like him with DX. I thought he was dumb. And then the reincarnation of DX over the years was just fucking dumber than the next one. I don't know. Triple H to me was the only time I really liked Triple H was when they were doing that angle when he was marrying Stephanie McMahon with the Undertaker and all that shit. Remember that?
Yep.
Like in '99, I think it was, something like that. That's the only time I really liked Triple H. And then when the Evolution came around,
but he wasn't a heel when they were doing that. When they were doing that, Stephanie McMahon, he was a face.
I know. I'm saying he was a heel back then, but I'm saying that's like the time that I really liked Triple H was back.
Yeah. I think his best year in ring and performing wise was 2000. You know, he started off with Royal Rumble 2000 against Cactus Jack, that No Way Out match against Cactus Jack, Hell in a Cell. He was at WrestleMania, the main event with The Rock, Big Show, and Mick Foley. Backlash, he fought The Rock. Judgment Day, he fought The Rock. You know, I thought he had that great fully loaded match with Chris Jericho, the last man standing match, awesome match. Then I think they had the triple threat at SummerSlam with The Rock and Kurt Angle, awesome match. You know, so 2000 was a great year for Triple H. So the next before we go to the next email here, I got a homework assignment for my man Tony Culopesta, because he's been sending us these emails asking us for the top 10 heels and our favorite pay-per-views of all time, but he actually hasn't told us his. So Tony, I need you to send me your top 10 heels. We'll talk about it on the show, and your favorite pay-per-views, so we can mention these on the show. So our next email comes from I guess this guy is I don't want to mess up his name here. William Stackton? Yeah, William Stackton from Denver, Colorado. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, he wants to know. Shout out to my man over there at Denver. He wants to know, what was your biggest nostalgic moment in a WrestleMania? And he actually mentions that his was seeing Sting for the first time at WrestleMania 31, actually in the WWE ring. So I'll let you go first.
All right.
My bad, man. I messed up his name, so I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Don't worry about it, Mr. Stanton. Shout out to you. Actually, mine, I'm gonna have to say it's gonna be the WrestleMania 3, seeing Hulk Hogan body slam Andre the Giant.
Okay, but that's nostalgic to you? Like for me, I'm gonna say my best nostalgic moment was Hollywood Hogan versus The Rock, WrestleMania 18. Now, I don't know if I had mentioned this before, but I didn't get to watch WCW too much back in the day. So when Hulk Hogan came into the WWF, the NWO version, and he was in the same ring with The Rock, I was like, oh wow, we're gonna get this dream match. And during that match at WrestleMania 18, when Hulk Hogan hulked up and The Rock started hitting me, he started shaking and getting up and doing, I popped huge. I was screaming up and down in my living room.
I actually thought Hogan was going to win that match right there. I actually thought Hogan was going to win that match when he started.
I thought he was going to win the match also. I know it made sense having The Rock to win. It just made sense. But it was so we went back in time just to say that I really wanted to see Hulk Hogan win, and I was kind of mad actually when he lost. But I get it now. I get why he needed to lose at that time.
Right.
So let me see if we got another email. Nope, we got no more emails right now. I want to remind you guys, you can send your emails, comments, and questions at cheechandkern@gmail.com. That's cheechandkern@gmail.com. You can send us your questions, comments, and emails out there, and tell us where you're from. It would be interesting to know how you guys became wrestling fans. What was your first recollection as being as a wrestling fan, and your first memory of watching wrestling? That would be interesting. We'll kind of mention it here on the show next time. And so, Kern, before we get out of here, we need to decide which event are we going to review next. What do you have in mind?
I was thinking about trying a Monday Night Nitro.
Okay.
How about the episode where Scott Hall shows up for the first time?
Okay. I'll have to look for the date on that one. I know it was in 96.
It was, if I'm not mistaken, it should be July of 96.
Was it July? I think it was before that, because Kevin Nash came in, I think it was in June or May. It had to be before that.
No, because the pay-per-view was in August, wasn't it?
Bash at the Beach was where they did the big reveal.
The third, yeah, because their Bash at the Beach came out at the same time SummerSlam came out, and it's in August, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but I think, didn't Kevin Nash make his way in May? Or was it Scott Hall made it in May and Kevin Nash in June? Something like that.
Something like that. We got to check it out. For some reason, I thought it was July, but we'll check it out. Well, let's try that one out.
Okay, we're going to review.
Or people send us emails at cheechandkern@gmail.com letting us know which show they would like for us to review.
Yeah, that would be great. You guys can send us your comments, questions, your selections for the show, because we do the show for you guys. We enjoy doing it. I enjoy going back, listening. But I want to see what you guys want to hear us review. So you guys can send us your email, see what you got, your suggestions, and we'll pick them, we'll see, and we'll go over them, and we'll pick what show we're going to do. But for next week, we're going to go with WCW Monday Nitro, the night that Scott Hall made his appearance. All right, well, we're going to get out of here then. Take care, guys. We'll drop... of course, remember, we're going to be here you guys can check out our show on our official YouTube channel every Saturday night. We're going to be up. So take care, guys.
Peace.